How's that? Hopefully.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, Paraham.
It's your old friend, Disco Dan.
Yeah, it's been a while. We haven't seen you guys in a long time. But I think hopefully we can do this on the regular, man. That would be really cool.
If we can, we got summer coming up.
Yeah, and definitely got some awesome paranormal things planned.
Oh, yeah?
I've been working on a book, actually, and I showed you it. Got my first couple chapters written.
I'm going to have to read that so we can talk about that next time.
Yeah, and that is something I'm really looking forward to. Also, Anime Zap this year. And I don't know if you remember last year, or no, it was 2 years ago.
It was.
Raina, you, and myself were out there doing
That was a good time.
a couple panels.
Yes.
Urban legends and
the second one was just kind of free for all.
Yeah, it was a free for all. We had questions. We had a very young kid that was really cool.
Yes.
And actually let him do the last 15 minutes of the panel.
That was pretty cool.
Got him up there. He was really interested in it.
Oh, yeah.
And we had a pretty good show up, man, wasn't it? There was a pretty good crowd.
Oh, yeah, about 15, 20 people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for the size of the convention and the hour it was, I would say it was.
Yeah.
It was pretty decent. Yeah.
Yeah, we had a good show up. I think we were competing against like a dance party at the time.
Oh, yeah.
And so for that going on and having people show up, it was really neat. We had a lot of people ask questions.
Yeah.
And it kind of like afterwards we tried to leave.
Oh, it took about an hour.
Everybody was out there wanted to talk, you know. So that's pretty cool.
You passed out some business cards.
Yeah.
Did you ever end up hearing back from any of those people?
I did get an email from one of the guys there, and he told me about some of his paranormal experiences, which was pretty cool.
Were you able to do anything with that?
He just had some personal questions,
okay.
and I talked with him about it, and he really didn't want to like have it shared, but it was kind of neat just getting to talk to him, hear about his experiences,
right.
And sometimes you help people. You know, they just have questions. They're interested and curious for themselves. You know, they don't want
anything.
And that's what's interesting is when these people come to you and they're not looking to, like, I don't want to go on a show or have you talk about me. I just am curious about this, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
That's when it seems kind of legitimate, you know.
Right.
And, but yeah, so we got some cool things planned, hopefully with the paranormal. And,
hopefully. And then just some, in general, craziness, which we need to get a hold of our old friend Ryan, because we'd still been talking about doing some tastings.
Yeah. And with COVID, you know, everything's finally getting back on track. People can go out. So we might have some normal events and normal things that can be done, you know.
Oh, yeah.
So that'll be pretty cool, man. So I was going to talk about something crazy that happened to me the other day.
Okay.
I was actually, my girlfriend and I, we watched the new Amityville horror movie, I guess the newest one. Or I shouldn't say newest because I think there's some more out.
Yeah.
But there's like 2006,
like
Ryan Reynolds.
Yep.
And really good movie. We were watching it right before we were going to bed. And she kind of was like, you know, this is kind of getting a little eerie. Let's turn it off. So yeah, you're right. So we turned it off and went to bed that night. And I woke up at like 3 a.m. And I had this dream about this like evil looking sort of spirit thing. Like it was going after her. And I called it over. I was like, no, come after me. And it like came to me and started attacking me. I woke up screaming. And she's like, you know, are you okay? What's going on? Yeah. And I'm like, you know, I had this dream. I looked over at my phone. It was like 3:15, which in the movie, if you've seen it, you know, the George Lutz, who's like the actual inspiration of the book and the movie, who lived there in the Amityville Horror House, he would wake up at 3:15 every morning. And that was kind of scary when I seen the time.
Yeah.
That I had this nightmare and all that. And
was it a rough night after that then?
Yeah, I didn't go back to sleep. I was just too shooken by that. And I didn't go back to sleep. But the next night it was fine. I went to sleep, no problem. But
did you guys finish the movie?
No, like 3/4 of the way in.
Yeah.
But it gets pretty dark at certain points.
Oh,
you almost have to turn it off. And I've had that experience before where you get into something dark and it kind of affects you.
Oh yeah.
You know, you probably remember The Ring.
Oh gosh,
seen The Ring?
The original.
Yeah.
Because I think they remade it.
And it was like, well, we were like 16, 17 at the time.
Something like that, yeah.
Does that mean it turned off or?
No,
okay.
I got a notification.
Yeah. I think we were like 16, 17 at the time, and we were pretty freaked out afterwards.
Oh, yeah.
Like we thought
something was gonna go down.
And I remember you had to go into your house.
Oh yeah.
And let the dogs out or something.
Oh yeah.
Like that.
I was still with my parents at the time.
We were, and there was a couple. I think there was someone else with us. And we were like terrified to be in the car alone. And
oh yeah, because we were in high school and we took one of my friends from school.
Yeah, we kept being like terrified to like that there was something on the roof or that something in the car, and it was just those kind of things affect you. I feel like you have to be careful with that stuff because you open this door up and anything can come in, and I think when you allow that negative stuff like that into your life and through that door, then it can affect you. And you're giving that sort of thing power.
Yeah.
And
that's why it's best just to stay away from that.
My grandmother, she used to say to me, you know, don't claim anything bad because then you give it power.
Right.
And I think she couldn't be more honest about that, because when you do give something power like that, it can totally
take over
and you know, you've seen some of that stuff with your own sister and
too much. It's just,
and I think that's why I tell people, I say be very careful. Like people ask me like you know, is it cool to play around with like Ouija boards or do seances or you know do stuff like that, and I say no, don't do it at all.
Don't touch it,
don't mess with it, because you don't know what you're allowing in.
Exactly.
You don't know what you're giving power to, and you think that you're communicating with someone, but really you don't know who you're communicating with. You don't know what sort of what is behind that, and you gotta be very careful with that. So I always tell people stay away from things, even the movies you watch, the music you listen to, you know. You allow that negativity into your life, and it can affect your life.
Yep.
And I think that you gotta allow, you know, good stuff. Be open to good things and good music and good movies and good friends.
And keep you.
Yeah, even people. You have to be careful with the people you allow into your life, because that can lead to negative things.
Well, speaking of movies, if you want to stay on this subject, here lately, have you seen any good movies that have been released?
I tell you, I've seen the new King Kong and Godzilla movie.
Okay, let's talk about that. What did you think? How'd you feel?
I really liked it. I thought it was the best out of the newer Godzilla movies. Yep. And do you know who the director is on those new ones?
I don't.
Not sure.
I'm not sure right off.
But I really liked it. I'll tell you, I liked it, but I didn't like it at the same time. I'll be honest with you. I liked the battle scenes between Godzilla and King Kong. I thought that was really cool and set up really good. I didn't like the storyline. You know, there were certain parts like, what's her name? Millie something that's in Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't understand, like, her side story. Like, what was the point of this whole, like, side story? Like, you didn't have to put that in there.
Okay.
And I felt like there was a lot of things that just didn't make sense. It didn't add up. Bad storyline, but ultimately when you see Kong and Godzilla in the fight scenes.
What did you think about Mechagodzilla?
That was really cool. I liked
that
what
they
did with
plot twist for sure.
You know, I liked how they reimagined Mechagodzilla.
Yeah.
And sometimes when they're recreating a movie, they reimagine something and it can either be horrible or it can be great.
Right.
And they did a good job at seeing it more futuristic.
Right.
And more modern, you know.
Yeah, oh yeah. And of course, spoiler alert for some, if you haven't seen it, they're definitely, you can tell that they're coming up with the next one.
Yeah. What about Mortal Kombat? Did you watch Mortal Kombat?
I did. I wasn't a huge fan of it, but I mean, I think I liked the original better.
Yeah.
But that was just me. So
I think
the fight scenes were decent, but it just storyline too was just it was more trying to tell the story of Scorpion versus how in the original you got the official fights and whatnot. But you can tell they're gonna come out with another one. But I hope it's not anything like Annihilation, because I started watching that halfway through. I had to turn it off. It was just I couldn't get into it. I was just like, this just is stupid.
The problem I feel with like remakes is when you have a movie and you come out with this movie and it's just so great,
right?
And it's at its peak. It's the best it could ever be. The problem is that I feel like you can't make a remake of that movie.
Right.
You know, when you have a movie that's so great and that so many people like, like Star Wars, I feel like, you know, when they made the newer movies,
right,
they should have left it at the first 3.
Okay.
Because those were so good.
Right.
I don't think you could have got better than that.
But from how they did it, though, you could tell they had to have prequels, because otherwise, well, how did Vader become Vader? You know,
And the problem is you get used to these movies, and you get used. The same thing with turning cartoons into movies.
Oh yeah.
I was telling you about the whole how CW cut. You know, it's not going to do a Powerpuff live action.
Yeah.
And the problem is that you get attached to these movies because they're so good, and you get attached to these cartoons that it's very hard for them to make it and you to like it, because you know it was done so good already.
Right.
How can you top that?
Yeah.
And I think rather than do remakes, I could get behind, I think, like sort of like side stories.
Yeah.
You know, like if they specifically took a character from Mortal Kombat,
right?
You know, Liu Kang or Raiden, right?
Right.
And they focused. This whole story was called. The movie was called Raiden.
Right.
Right, and it was focusing on Raiden and how he became Raiden. And
well, right before the new one came out, they did have a little side story of Scorpion. I think it was Scorpion's Revenge.
Yeah.
Animated, but it told the story on how he became Scorpion.
See, the problem is that they're trying to retell stories that have already been told, and you can't make it any better than it already is. We already know that story.
Right.
Tell us a new story, you know?
Well, it's just like with the new Batman that's supposed to be coming out with Robert Pattinson. Who knows how that's going to be, and is it supposed to tell how all the other ones, it's going to tell his backstory, how he does this, and this. I don't even know who the villains are supposed to be in this. Have you heard?
No, I think, I think the Riddler.
Okay.
And I forget who's going to play. Someone said like Colin Farrell was going to play the Riddler. I don't know, but that's the problem is they bring back the same villains and stuff. Like bring some new villains in.
Right.
You know?
Let's
You're going to remake a new Batman movie. Bring something new in. You know.
Have they haven't had Clayman?
Yeah.
Have they? Or the Man Bat? Bring him in.
Man Bat. They've done Bane. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of characters they haven't done. Like, who's the one guy? You know, would be really cool. The one with the puppet. I can't remember his name.
I don't think it's Puppet Master.
Scarface. Is it like Scarface? And he's like a gangster, and he has a puppet. And
I don't think I've ever seen that one.
That one would be really cool.
Okay.
Or, you know,
I want to see them do
Red Hood. Would be really cool.
I've seen an animated one with Red Hood.
Red Hood.
Because Red Hood was actually Dick.
Yeah, that would be really cool. You know, I'm trying to think of some of the other Batman villains. Yeah, like you said, Man Bat. I mean, there's the one doctor. Who's the guy with the big brain? Isn't there like a guy with the big brain?
So.
I can't remember. There's a lot of ones that I think that, you know, they did the Croc with Suicide Squad. I thought that was really interesting. They brought the Croc in there.
Okay, yeah.
You know, I think that would be a cool movie to do a standalone with Batman.
Did you see what they tried to do as a new Suicide Squad? Birds of Prey.
I watched a little bit of that, and I just didn't really get it. Black Mask, I think, was who they were trying. That would be a good character, but I didn't like their version of the Black Mask.
Okay.
And they tried to do it with Obi-Wan Kenobi. what's it, Ewan McGregor.
Yeah.
And I wasn't a big fan of how they did Black Mask. I think they could do a Batman movie. That would be a good villain to do with Batman. And but I did like Suicide Squad.
Yeah, the original. Yeah.
I thought they did a pretty good job with that. It was cool to see some of these other characters I hadn't seen before.
Well, okay, so Deadshot, why not bring him in?
Yeah, Deadshot. You know, they what stinks is that, you know, they you see the Justice League, right, didn't do that well. They brought Zack Snyder's. That was all right. But towards the last scene, right, you see Deathstroke.
Yeah.
Okay. Deathstroke would be an awesome Batman villain.
Yeah. Which is like, okay, have you seen Titans on HBO Max yet?
I haven't, no.
That is not too bad. They got 2 seasons out because it brings in some of the original Titans, and some of those I hadn't even heard of.
Yeah.
And then it's got part of from like the Teen Titans, so it's like, okay, you got Robin, you got Nightwing, how he becomes Nightwing, you got Dove, Hawk.
Oh, so nice.
I've never heard of those before. So, and of course, you got Raven, and then Beast Boy. So, yeah.
So, I you know, one of the problems I have with these newer movies is that they're recreating a lot of older movies. They're bringing them back and remaking them, and they change they're all they're doing really is keeping the same storyline, but they're changing the cast.
Yeah.
And I feel like one of the problems with that is that you have to understand that a lot of comic book fans, in their mind, Bruce Wayne, right, is this older guy, and probably he's like his 40s,
right?
You know, 30s, 40s, an older guy who, you know, he has the black hair, slick back, you know, kind of, and you know, you have this idea in your head if you've been a comic book fan of who Bruce Wayne is, you know, despite there's been alternate versions of Bruce Wayne, you know, you have this main idea of who he is, and I think when you try and change that, like if you try and cast Batman as a woman character, and I understand there's Batwoman, which that's a whole different story, so that's cool, but if you took Batman and you made him a woman character, it is very hard, and I'm sure people will take it the wrong way, but it's not that way. It's just that the problem is you have to understand that Bruce Wayne was made, his character was written to be a specific type of person, to be a 40-year-old male who, you know, has black hair. You know, I couldn't see a blonde-haired guy being Bruce Wayne, just you know, because that's how he's cast. The same thing with like James Bond. You know, I heard that the new James Bond, they're gonna make James Bond a woman, but you have to understand that James Bond was written in the 80s. And it was made for a very masculine male character, and that's what he was. You know how they developed this character. And you have to understand character development. And when you change that, you essentially change that character, and it's no longer that character anymore. Right. You know, because you grew up watching this character, and he's always been the same, and then you change that, and it doesn't feel like that character anymore. Right. And that's the problem. And I think that's why a lot of these movies have bombed when they've tried to make remakes, because it doesn't feel like that character you grew up with, you know. Exactly. And I'm all for, you know, you know, including people in that. But I think when you do that, why not make new roles, new characters? Yeah, definitely. You know, develop a new spy movie, develop a new superhero movie. Right. And develop that character how you want to, but don't change characters that are a specific way, you know, and that people have idolized and sort of gravitated towards their whole life and become, you know, accustomed, and that's become like their best friend, and they're changing them, and it's hard to get behind that and see them in that, you know, with a different sort of set of attributes, you know. But so something I want to talk about, and we got to talk about some conspiracies here, I feel like. I think that I watched this video with Russell Brand, and you hadn't seen it, right? No. There's a video on YouTube with Russell Brand, which I find is interesting, and he's talking about how they're trying to promote this new thing called a COVID passport, and basically they want everybody to get some sort of registration to say they've had the COVID vaccine. Okay, and that way they can identify who's had it and who hasn't. So when people go to events, stores, things like that, workplaces, they know who's got it, who doesn't, if they should be wearing a mask or not,
Right.
based on regulations, right?
Right.
But what I have a problem with is that I think this is sort of an agenda to push what I've talked about for a very long time, and I've heard about this, is that they want to use this as propaganda to push for people to get a microchip. And that they've talked about this, that people would get a microchip, and it's a national registry database.
Okay.
And basically, this microchip you would get would have all your information. It would be like your license.
Yep.
Except it would have everything about you. It would have your whole identity. Not only would it have all this information about you, it would tell if you've had the COVID shot.
Right.
It would tell events in your life. It would tell,
Your whole
a character story, of who you are. It would also be able to track you, much like they do with sharks and things like that. When we study sharks, and we study animals, they tag them, and they can scan that they put a chip in them and they scan it, and they can tell where that shark has been. If it's traveled to the Atlantic or the Pacific Ocean, they can see patterns. They can also track its vitals. They can tell your heart rate. And a lot of people are promoting this, saying, hey, if we get these chips, then we could tell the exact moment when a person died.
Yeah.
So if there's a murder investigation,
right,
we know when that person died. We know who else was with that person during the time they died. So we could track a murderer possibly and solve murders
a lot quicker.
We can solve medical problems. We can understand how they died, when they died, as well as crimes. And basically they're saying that if you commit a crime, they would be able to basically put a red flag on your chip. And they said that this chip they would want people to use. And that's why I feel like they're trying to push for the cryptocurrency. Because they want to do away with cash. Everything you would pay for would be with your chip. You'd go to the store, they'd scan your hand, that would pay for the stuff that you're buying, right? Well, they could block that, and anytime you went to the store, went to a place, you walked through the door, they would have scanners, they would know who you were. You wouldn't be allowed in the store. You wouldn't be able to buy things. And they could track criminals, and if someone had a warrant for their arrest, they couldn't buy anything. They couldn't go to a store.
They'd be able to.
They could track you, and they could. And some people say, well, this will get rid of crime, but the scary thing is that they could track you in your own home. They know who's in your house at what time. They know what you're doing at all times. They tried this with the cell phones, and you can't keep your cell phones on all. And not everyone has a cell phone. Not everyone keeps it on all the time. But with this chip, they could do more than that, and they could potentially have a window into your whole life. And know what you're doing at all times. And know everything about you, who you're associated with. And it's kind of scary. And because if you're familiar, obviously the book of Revelations, the Bible talks about the mark of the beast, and it says you would get this mark and you couldn't buy anything, you couldn't do anything, you would basically be outlawed if you didn't have this mark. And I really feel that this is a pathway to that mark.
It is.
And that this whole, and you had said it, that the whole, they were starting to say, employers were going to say, we can't hire you if you don't have a vaccine. And I think next is going to move to, could, and people say, well, they can't do it, but I don't know, could employers say, you can't work here no more if you don't have a vaccine. You can't come in this place if you don't have a vaccine.
Exactly.
Could they potentially prevent you from buying things, from working, from doing your normal life if you don't have that? And I really think it's headed towards that direction.
It's scary. And
the people, and people doubt that, and say, this is just. But if you're familiar with the Bible, and you read it, you read the Book of Revelations, you know that everything in it is coming true. And that you're seeing these events unfold exactly word for word. And it's almost like I don't really say like, this is this is something new to me, because you know, you kind of knew what was going to happen.
Right. You just
you know the next step. Yeah.
Right.
But
yeah.
So, well, how's things been in Disco Dan's life?
Doing good.
Yeah.
Work's been busy. Outside of that, I got a girlfriend. So.
Yeah, man. Really proud of him. Doing really good.
Yep. So, kids are all getting big. So, school's out for the summer. Got some big plans. And outside of that, ready, excited for hopefully next chapter so we can get some more stuff going, have more shows going down. Hopefully do some more events.
Yeah.
So we'll see if we can get out there this year, and hopefully New Year's find a place. And
I know that we got to do some cool things, like you know, we got to watch Jam Sandwich.
Yes.
Talk with them, do a live concert, go out there to Cruisins.
Oh yeah.
We got to, you know, kind of hang out with the band, talk to them.
And then talk to my buddy Jared. And actually, we're gonna have to get with him because he's no longer wrestling. He's just taking a toll on his body, but he's getting into racing now.
Oh wow, yeah.
So I don't remember what kind of cars, but it's it's not just a little RCs. No, it's the full blown.
Yeah, he had some legitimate stuff going on. He was wrestling, and I know he got hurt. And they told him to stop wrestling, and he wanted to keep doing it.
And finally, he's been out of that for a few years, so now he's getting back into racing. He just got a new car here a little while ago, and getting that made up. So, what about you though, Pear? How's things been going? I know you said earlier.
Good. Just always busy. Always keeping on the go.
Yep.
You know.
So we got to slow it down a little bit so we can actually do a few things.
But still sticking true to, you know, the paranormal stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you know, Lorena and I have been doing a lot with the paranormal, and
nice.
Like I said, I've been working on the book. And I think that would be really big. I think people will really like to read the book.
I'm going to have to get reading that so next time I can be like, all right. So
yeah, Raina had an opportunity to look at it, and she really enjoyed it. Thought it was put together really well. And
so then, yes, if anybody knows any publishers, let Parahan know, and he can send it out, submit it, and see what everybody's got going down.
Yeah, that's my dream, is to get a book out there. You know,
that'd be cool.
Like to have something someone can read.
You got to come up with a cool front page. Well, not front page, but a front cover now.
Well, yeah, I have to come up with the logo and everything. What will be on the front, but
what you could do, and it's completely up to you, is our old school Area 309 background, the green and the and whatever.
Oh yeah, I didn't think about that. I really like that.
I mean, that's just an option.
The funny thing about Area 309 is that you know, we thought for days and days and weeks, actually, I think we were trying to come up with an idea for a name for the show. And I think it was whoever said, you know, like, what about like Area 309, you know, a play on Area 51, right? Area code. Why not do a play on that?
Yeah.
And I said, dude, that's awesome, you know? And that name just kind of stuck. We looked it up. We didn't see anybody else using it. So we said, yeah, let's do Area 309. And then we came up with a cool logo. And
oh, you came up with that logo. It took you a little while. And
business cards. And but the kind of thing, the funny thing is how this show came to be about is we sat down over I think we had dinner, or I think we just had
we were just hanging out at McDonald's,
and we just come up with this idea of what we wanted to do, and it worked out from there. And but so it's kind of interesting how these things come to be, but it worked out perfectly.
Oh yeah.
And, but yeah, have you ever heard of the Mandela effect?
Just a little bit.
So this theory came about, and it was later 2000 or earlier 2000s, I should say, where that people thought they remembered that Nelson Mandela died in prison.
Okay.
But he didn't. He was in prison for many years, got out, and became president, stuff like that. And like a lot of people thought that he passed in prison, but that never actually happened.
Yeah.
And so the Mandela effect is basically a lot of people remember something one way, but it isn't. Like
We talked about this a couple years ago for Pikachu, prime example.
Yes, Pikachu having the black tail, which he doesn't. He has a yellow tail.
Right. It's just, I think it's always because of how he's set. And you can see the black from whatever else.
Yeah, I mean, there's some things where I can get to understand, like when you look at the Berens, it's the Berenstein, right? We know it as, a lot of people think it's Berenstain Bears, which is an old children's book.
Yeah.
But it's actually Berenstain, and a lot of people are like, no, it's not Berenstain, it's Berenstein, right? Or you know, there's different things like a lot of people think it's Jif peanut butter, but it's Jiffy.
Yeah.
Or no,
I think it's the other way
Jiffy.
around.
It's Jif peanut butter.
Jif peanut butter.
And everybody thought it was Jiffy, you know. Or the biggest one is the whole. They remember Sinbad actually playing a genie, but people are like, no, that's Shaquille O'Neal did the whole Shazam. But people like, I remember a movie called Shazam or something like that with Sinbad, where he played a genie, and legitimate. I found some evidence to support maybe there is something to this Mandela effect. Okay, so one of the bigger ones is that the Monopoly guy, right? He has a everyone always remembers him having a monocle, you know, that little eyeglass thing over his eye, right? But he doesn't. He never had a monocle. It's just, he's Mr. Uncle Pennybags is his name.
I think we got a visitor.
And the funny thing is that I was watching Ace Ventura: Pet Detective When Nature Calls. Okay.
Yep.
And if you watch that movie, there's a reference to the Monopoly guy.
Oh,
yeah. Remember that? The guy comes down, and the Monopoly guy they have in there, right? He has a monocle.
Yep.
And they show him with a monocle, and you can look it up. Look that scene up on YouTube, or look that scene up, and you can see he has a monocle. And this is in the 90s when this movie came out, 98. This is before the Mandela effect came about.
Okay.
So we're seeing them acknowledging the Monopoly guy had the monocle.
See, this is when I wish we had the laptop so we could actually show everybody.
Yeah, to show them that